Hi everyone, what's up? Chelsea fans, I hope you're all feeling good. This is Xavier Mbuyamba, and you're listening to the Blue Day podcast. Enjoy.
Fellow Chelsea supporters, here at the Blue Day podcast, it gives me great pleasure to welcome this individual on the show today. He made 140 appearances for Chelsea, scoring 13 goals. He won 3 trophies at Chelsea, winning the Second Division Championship in 1989 and the Full Members' Cup twice in 1986 and 1990. Here is Kevin McAllister. Kevin, welcome to the Blue Day podcast. How are you?
I'm very good. Thanks for asking me to come on.
Kevin, pleasure's all mine as always. Just want to start the interviews as I have done in the past by just sort of going all the way back to the very beginning of your career, and in particular, who was your influences when it came to deciding to become a professional footballer?
That probably starts like when you're growing up right away. I just wanted to be a footballer. I didn't want to do nothing else. Football was what everybody wanted to be then. But there's only so many that make it, so you have to keep working. And I suppose your mum and dad to start with, who take you to training and take you to all the games every weekend. I think people sometimes see that when players are playing like in the first division, the Premiership or whatever it is, it just happens, but it obviously doesn't. You need a lot of help on the way. And I think my mum and dad were a big help, and my family were a big help to get me like really started and try and get the dream to being a professional footballer.
When it came to watching football on a regular basis, did you have any idols growing up as a kid?
I just watched all football. Obviously there are different players, and especially the Scottish players that you would admire, but or players that played the same way as me, like sort of dribblers and things like that. But no certain individuals. I just like watching football all the time, whether it was at the games or on the telly. So that was basically football.
Now, I'd like to fast forward to the time when you did sign for Chelsea. It was in the summer of '85, and you signed from Falkirk in Scotland for £35,000. How did this move come to be, Kevin?
Well, I played for Falkirk, who were the team I supported as a boy. They were the team I used to go and watch, and I signed for them. And I was there 2 seasons. The first season I did really well. I finished top goal scorer with 11 goals. We were a part-time team, and the second season it didn't do as well. I had a couple of niggly injuries, and then I thought, well, I might have got a move the first year, but not really to any specific team. It was just that I did well. So the second year I didn't, and then the season ended on the Saturday, and then on the Monday afternoon I got a phone call from the Falkirk manager, Billy Lamont at the time, and he said, Kevin, he says, how would you like to sign for a London club? And I'm on the phone and going, yeah, Gaffer, that would be great. And he goes, okay. He says, I'll meet you in the morning. We're flying down. You're signing for Chelsea. And I went, what? I was loads of London clubs, but not in my wildest dreams did I think it was going to be Chelsea or one of the clubs like that. And then we flew down. Ian McNeil met us at the airport and took us to the training ground, because that was at that time it was next to Harlington. It was next to the Heathrow, and then took us into Stamford Bridge, and we went for lunch down the King's Road with Ian and Mr. Bates, and came back and agreed terms, and I signed that afternoon. And that was me until I had to come back again for pre-season in July. It was actually John Neal who was the manager at the time. And then when I was in Scotland in the summer, John Neal had moved upstairs and John Hollands had got the job. So I don't know if I was John Neal's last signing, but I was probably not far away from being it. And I was a wee bit worried because I thought, well, I've signed for one manager and there's another manager in charge, but it ended up you just had to get on with it. So, to be fair, the first season it worked out really well.
What was your first impressions of the club and your new teammates when you did join first day of pre-season?
Well, before I left, Ian McNeil gave us like half a dozen programmes and 2 or 3 editions of the Chelsea View at the time, just for me to look at, like, and that, which was good for me because we never did Google or that then. So, and I obviously I knew a lot of the players because they were internationals, and I knew 2 or 3 of them that, not personally, but I knew 2 or 3 of them that had played in Scotland. Like obviously Wee Pat, Big Joe, Doug Rugby, guys like that. So I recognise them. I didn't obviously know them, but when I went down, I was staying in digs with Duncan Shearer, and the first week we went away to Aberystwyth to do the pre-season, which was a massive help because I get to know the boys really well then for that week over away, because you were training twice a day and having dinner together and everything. So I got to meet the boys that week. So that helped me settle in.
Now, on the podcast, the name Duncan Shearer hasn't been mentioned too many times. What stories have you got of your former teammate at Chelsea?
Duncan, I was staying in digs with him in Amersham, and I could drive. Duncan couldn't drive, and I could drive, but I hadn't had a car yet. And we used to get picked up with Eddie Nidzwicki and Big Joe McLaughlin because they stayed up that way. But Duncan was a great lad. He was a good player. He was probably unlucky because you had Kerry and you had Speedo and Gordon Davis at the time, and his chances were like limited, and he had to go away and go and play elsewhere. But he managed to get a great career out of himself. Having had the education at Chelsea probably helped him with Kerry and Speedo and that there anyway. But he ended up having a really good career. But he was a brilliant big lad, and I got on really well with him.
Now, you made your debut for Chelsea against Southampton in the league. Do you have much memories of your debut for Chelsea?
Well, what happened was I hadn't been up there. I hadn't went home since I'd went in for pre-season, and I think on the Tuesday or something I went in and I said to John Hollands, "Listen, I'm thinking about going up the road for the weekend," because I hadn't been in any squads or anything. I've been doing really well for the reserve, scoring a few goals, and he says, "No, you're not going away for the weekend." And I was a wee bit. I went, "Oh, why not?" And he said, "Because you're in the squad for Saturday." And well, I says, "Well, I don't want to go up the road now then." So and on the Saturday, I think Mickey Thomas failed a fitness test, so I was on the bench. I couldn't really believe it, to be honest, because then it was only one sub, and Chelsea had basically the same starting 11 most weeks, and you had a lot of players that were fighting to get one place on the bench, and that was a big lift for me to get on the bench so early in my Chelsea career. And then half time, John Bumstead came off with an injury, and I was on at half time, so I never really had even any time to have nerves or anything. It was just, and I come on and I did well, and then the following week we played Arsenal at Stamford Bridge, and that was I got my first start that day. I think David Speedy was either suspended or away playing with Scotland. they had to play Australia or something, and I think he was away, but I'm not sure if he was suspended. But anyway, I played, and we Pat played, and Kerry, and we managed to win 2-1. I think Nigel Spitman got the 2 goals. So within a week, I'd come off the bench and played against Arsenal in front of 41,000 at Stamford Bridge. It was brilliant.
And sort of further down the line, you did end up scoring your first goal for Chelsea. It was against West Brom in the Full Members Cup. Was you quite relieved at that point to finally get on the score sheet for Chelsea?
Absolutely, because I scored goals everywhere when I played. Like before I went to Falkirk with the club I played with, and then with Falkirk I got a few goals, and I had a few chances for Chelsea, and I didn't take them, and I was getting a bit, because I knew I could, if I got I could score, and then I managed to get the goals, but it was never really a big deal at Chelsea, because you had Kerry, and you had Gordon Jury, and you had Kevin McAllister and Speedo. They had like goal scorers on the team, so but it's always nice to score a goal. It's nice to make goals, but you like scoring as well. Gets your name in the paper.
And following sort of with this first season, it was on the 23rd of March in 1986. Chelsea won a thrilling game at Wembley against Manchester City in the Full Members Cup final. What stories do you have of this game, albeit from the build-up to the celebrations afterwards?
Well, we never had a build-up because we played Southampton on the Saturday at the Dell and won 1-0. And we left Southampton and we went straight up to London to the hotel to prepare, to get ready for the game the next day. I think Manchester City played Manchester United. So basically two games in 2 days. I mean, some of the managers and the players would go crazy if that was to happen to them now. So
yes,
we managed to go 5-1. We managed to go 5-1 in front. We played really, really well. Speedo got a hat-trick, and Big Colin Lee played. Kerry was injured, and he got 2, and then Big Doug Ruby, he got to sell an own goal, so he was pleased with that. And we managed to. I think they made it 5-4 in about the 3rd minute of the injury time, but the scoreline flattered Manchester City a wee bit because we played really well, and we were delighted to lift the cup.
And was it sort of leading up towards the game? Was it of importance not just to the club, but was it importance to amongst the squad that yes, you're playing at Wembley and it's a chance for us to win some silverware, because we weren't at that stage in the 80s competitive in the domestic cup. So how important was it for the entire squad to win this trophy?
Yeah, I think it was important. I think we were desperate to win it, but I think we were going really well in the league that year. I think we were in the top 3 or 4 in the division, and then the Southampton game was an important game. We managed to win that, but when all the focus went on to the final, we were all desperate to win it, and I think the performance that day showed that we were really good. I mean, if you look at Chelsea in the last X amount of years, the Full Members Cup was just not even on the agenda. But I mean, for us as a group of players, a lot of us probably played at Wembley for the first time, and it was you dreamed about going to play at Wembley, especially for me, maybe Scotland and England game, but just to get to a cup final. And Chelsea had a big support that day as well, so it was a good occasion and one we really enjoyed.
The next season, you didn't appear for the club in games until the October. Was there conversations between you and John Hollins prior to you sort of returning to the first team action about the lack of first team football, and what in fact maybe John Hollins had plans for you at this period?
I'm not sure. I mean, I think I come back looking forward to the season because I treated the first season as an absolute bonus because I didn't expect to make the appearances that I did. But things happen, and you know, a couple of niggly injuries, and then you didn't get in the team, and things just happen. You're at a big club, you have to just work hard and try and accept it. And but sometimes it doesn't go for you. But just have to try and keep your head down, get fit, and then try and get back in the team. And that's what I did.
And it was around this time as well that you went back on loan to Falkirk. What was going through your mind at this stage of your career, knowing that you've, as you rightfully said at the start of the interview, that you signed for Chelsea? It was quite a bit of a shock to your system, knowing that you was at Falkirk and all of a sudden Chelsea are looking to sign you. You've gone to Chelsea, you've won the Full Members Cup. You've just rightfully put nicely that you had a productive season, a good season, and then all of a sudden you're then going back to Falkirk because of you need to sort of play first team football. Was there any sort of doubts going in your head about what you needed to do to get into the team, or was there maybe doubts about your long-term future and thinking you might need to maybe move back to Falkirk or maybe find another club?
Well, the loan to Falkirk come just after John Hollands had left. It was Bobby Campbell that took over, and he hadn't seen much of me.
Right.
But there was you know, obviously there was loads of things going on behind the scenes just before John Hollands left. So he was falling out with senior players, and I think it affected the whole environment. So, but the one I think it was about six weeks into the season to go, and I hadn't played as much games, and I think Bobby Campbell basically he says to us like, "Falk, I want to take you up on for the last 6 weeks of the season." They were struggling a wee bit as well, and he says you have to go and play games, and I'll probably get. I think I even came up to one of the games actually. It says, and we'll see how it goes. And I went up, and I did really well. I mean, we're playing the top Aberdeen and playing Rangers and that. So it basically gave me a bit of a laugh because I got my appetite back a wee bit again, knowing that I'm going to go up there and I'm going to play 6 games. It wasn't a case of, oh, you might start a game, you might miss out the next week. I knew I was going to go and play 6 games, and then after the 6th game, well, that's Chelsea ended up getting into the playoffs for the to stay up. They finished, and I got a phone call to tell me to get back down to London because I was going to be involved in the playoff games. So I came back. I never started then. I think I was on the bench for 4 games. But I come on most of them. But in the last one, the Middlesbrough game, when we got relegated, and Gordon Jury scored early, and we just couldn't get the second goal, and we ended up getting relegated. And basically just went back home, and then come back for pre-season. I actually thought I was going to get a move then because I did really well when I went up and won. I know there were a few Scots clubs wanted to sign me, but there was no freedom of contract or anything that then. They could keep your registration, and that affected me a couple of times because I could have had a couple of moves, but Batesy was asking for sometimes too much money, So I ended up coming back. I actually thought I was only going to be there for. I didn't even think I was staying. I thought I was going to go back home, but came back, and Bobby Campbell basically just says, "Just get your head down and work, and we'll see what happens." And then that year we won the league, and it was. But I think, go to the consequences of the Middlesbrough game, I think we played the first 6 games behind closed doors, if I remember.
Yes, there was a few, and also obviously talking about the season in the second division, we actually started quite badly. We didn't sort of start off well. I remember doing the research to this, and I was watching the season review. We lost to Blackburn at home, and we were sort of struggling for form a little bit. Certain players weren't sort of playing to their maximum, so to speak. But just to touch on a little bit on the relegation, and we've had some players on the show in the past that were part of that side. We had Pat Nevin on the show a couple of months ago, Joe McLaughlin. We've had Steve Wicks as well that has mentioned it, and even Clive Wilson as well. There's been rumours from outside the dressing room about why the team went down and certain issues between management and players. But in your opinion, Kevin, for someone who was there front and centre, what do you believe the reasons were for that particular team to go down? Because we've had it on the show from ex-players and even supporters who I've spoken to. That team was too good to go down. If you look at the likes of Kerry Dixon up top, and even someone like Tony DeRigo that was playing in the side as well. In your opinion, Kevin, what do you believe that was down to, the fact that Chelsea went down to the second division?
No, there's no way that team should have been relegated. There's no way that team should have been anywhere near the relegation place. There was a load of things going on behind the scenes that didn't help. I must admit that. Certain players and certain we had two we ended up having two managers. I think Bobby took over in, I don't know, March or April or so. No,
yes, he
March.
took over late that season. Yes.
Aye, I don't know how many games he had left, because I was away for 6 years. I was away. Well, I played 6 games in Scotland, so I come back from the. So I think the last game, that was the day they get into the playoffs. But there was a load of things. But even at that, the players, you've just mentioned some of them. I mean, up front, you've got Kerry Dixon, you've got Gordon Jury, Tony DeRigo, Clive Wilson. They were all brilliant footballers. Big Joe at the back, and Johnny Bumstead, a die-hard Chelsea player, like brilliant, and other players like that. They should never have got relegated. But you have to take your medicine, and to be fair, the club took their medicine and then they bounced straight back. That should never have happened.
Well, you've mentioned the season after, when we was in the second division. That was the season really that, stats-wise, you completely made that position your own. You know, you was able to play more games, and it was when you flourished. There was a change in management, obviously, as you mentioned, with Bobby Campbell. What were your thoughts on Bobby as a coach?
Yeah, I like Bobby. I got on really well with Bobby. He had a laugh and a joke with the boys, and I used to like wind them up and things like that. And he used to he sometimes used to say, "I'm only putting you on the bench," he says, "because you make me laugh." I said, "Oh, cheers, Gaffer." And I think he was serious. But I just felt like I was. I think I felt that I would get my chance, and because normally, I mean, I think me and Clive Wilson were in the same boat, really, because whenever there was a bad result, if we had played on the Saturday, it'd be either me or Clive that would get left out. Like the following week, if there was going to be a change, if it wasn't me, it'd be Clive, and if it wasn't Clive, it'd be me. And me, I used to travel in with Clive to training, and we used to joke about it, like, who's going to get left out this week, then me or you? You know, it was, and we were always right, but I think that season it was 46 games. I think I was involved in 42 of them. But there was one game which signed what's his name? Dave Mitchell. And I had been involved in most of the games. We played Plymouth away, and I wasn't on the bench. Dave Mitchell was on the bench, and I was gutted that day. But Gordon Jury got injured, and so the following week we played Oldham at home, and I was back on the bench again, and we drew 2 each. But I come off the bench, and I did quite well. And then I played in every game after that. I played in the next 16 league games after that, which is probably the longest run of games that I played. And then it was the difference was I was turning up on a Saturday knowing that I'd probably be playing, or I would be playing, because I was doing well. And it makes a big difference when you know you're part of the team and you think you're going to be playing every week rather than, well, I'll be left out this week or no. And as you say, that was starter wise and performance wise, that was probably my best season. Goal wise as well, so making and taking. So I was really pleased that year. I was really pleased that year because it was after the club getting relegated, we bounced back, and I think we went on something like a 27 game unbeaten run until we lost at Leicester, which was some achievement really.
And there were some interesting results as well in that when we went up to Main Road and beat Manchester City. It was sort of basically the title decider, and we ended up beating them in their backyard. But we ended up getting back into the First Division. And as you've mentioned, that you felt you were starting to perform well, but more consistent. What strengths do you believe that you had that you was able to show in the team that perhaps you maybe didn't at the start of your Chelsea career? Because as you say, you was playing near enough every week at this point. You was either creating or scoring goals. Did you feel that your game was getting better because of the fact that you felt more settled and more happy, basically, playing week in, week out?
I mean, you just feel part of the team. You feel, although I'd been there 3 or 4 years, you were always apart from maybe my first season, although I never played every week, I was either there or out, but you just felt part of the team. You just felt, I mean, you maybe got to, you might go somewhere in a midweek and the team win, but you're not on the bench, you didn't get on, or you're in the squad, but you didn't feel this part of it. As I know players will say, but unless you're playing week in, week out, most of the time, you never feel part of when the team win. You want the team to win, but you want to be playing. You didn't want to be a sub or a reserve. You want to be playing every week. And that spell, just after the Oldham game, when I started the next game, and I kept my place for the rest of the season, it was just great turning up knowing that you're going to play, and supporters probably hoping that you're playing because you're doing well. You know, it's not like, oh, I wonder if he's playing today. It was like, oh, he'll be playing today. I'm looking forward to watching him. It's a great feeling, and every player will tell you that. I just touch on that again. The game that you mentioned, the Manchester City game. That's probably one of the best performances that I played in with a Chelsea team. You know, that was 3-0 gone on, 8-0 by the way. Tony DeRigo scored that goal for their corner. It was like the Alamo running up the pitch. It was absolutely fantastic. And I think that, as you say, I think that was the day that we knew we were going to win the league. It was a fantastic performance that day. With a massive travelling support as well, made it even better.
Yes, because I'm just looking at the research of it now, and you had Kerry Dixon had scored. Kevin Wilson, who's also been on the podcast, he was a vital part of that promotion side. And as you say, Tony DeRigo, and he's even mentioned it to me, the fact that run, he could do it maybe 5-10 times over, and the way that it sort of lined him up with the shot, it was just sort of all worked out well in that game, and bearing in mind that was near enough the 2 best teams in that league that season.
Yeah, Tony's goal was amazing. I think Tony got a few goals that season as well. He was a great striker of the ball, Tony, and he got some vital goals as well. And Graham Roberts at the back, he's chipped in with his penalty kicks and that. And we just had a brilliant team. It wasn't just like, I know Kerry probably got 25 as he usually does, but Gordon probably got 20 and Kevin Wilson got 18 to 20. We had goals on the pitch, and we just blew the league away once we got going. We just had a bad start, but after that we were frightened.
And do you have any particular stories of the last home game when we was able to lift the Second Division Championship and players had Bobby Campbell on their shoulders and sort of parading around Stamford Bridge? Do you have any stories of that particular day?
Not really. I was just because we had won the league and we were just basically waiting for the last game to get the trophies and the medals. It was just, I think, just just because a year earlier we'd been standing on that pitch after being relegated, and then a year later you're walking around the pitch, your trophy, your medals, you're celebrating with the supporters, and I mean, whatever. I mean, Chelsea shouldn't be in the second division or whatever it was called at the time. They should be in the top league, and we managed to play a part in getting the back up. And obviously now when you see what they've achieved since then, it's good to watch, good to see.
Now, the 89-90 season, you started the first 3 games of that season, and then it was after the game against Charlton where we lost 3-0. You unfortunately was out of the side, and it wasn't until I believe it was October that you was back in contention. Did you have any conversations with Bobby Campbell within that period as to why you was out of the squad, or did he give any indications of what he had planned for you?
No, not that time, because the Charlton game I got injured. I'd done my ankle, so I was out for 6 weeks, and because I'd started the season quite well, and then we played Charlton at Selhurst Park, and I went over my ankle, and I got a sore one actually, and I was out for I think it was about 6 weeks, and that's when I just got fit again, and I was just getting back in.
Right.
So I never really had a conversation about that, but I had a few conversations with him, but not at that time, because I was injured at that time.
Right, I see. Because you came back against it was an Elite Cup game against Scarborough, which famously we lost 3-2, and that was a game where I've spoken to players that played in that game, and it was a case of we don't know how we lost that game. Do you remember that game well?
I don't know it well, but we shouldn't have lost it even. But that was Chelsea then. Chelsea, you just sometimes we threw a result like that in, and it happens. But I can't really recall that game very much, to be honest with you.
Well, it was that particular season, the 89-90 season, where we did win the Full Members' Cup again. We beat Middlesbrough at Wembley, and Tony Dorigo scored the goal. It was hit it top left corner. Do you remember that game well? You know, the fact that Chelsea just recently came back up from the second division, and they're back at Wembley again. And ironically enough, they beat a side that a couple of years later they lost to in the league playoff.
Yeah, I think that made it better. It was Middlesbrough, because they had basically relegated us, and we had them in that final. I think it was about 80,000 there. There was a big crowd there, and tremendous atmosphere, and wasn't the greatest games probably, but when Tony lined the free kick up and put it in the top corner, it was a brilliant moment, because we were quite strong, and I think once Tony scored, I thought we played well, and we didn't give them many chances, and it ended up that was a great day, because after winning the league we managed to get another cup, so that was good for all the lads as well, getting another visit to Wembley and winning the cup.
And was there perhaps a conversation amongst the squad, amongst the lads, about the fact that you've been back at Wembley again, you've won the Full Members' Cup? Was there sort of an indication that perhaps if we were able to kick on, we could perhaps be more competitive in the league and maybe sort of do well in the domestic cups? Was there sort of a squad meeting about what we can achieve going forward?
I don't think there was a squad meeting. I'd imagine the manager would maybe say, "Come on, lads, we've got the players to go to do better in the leagues and obviously the cups." But I don't think there was a squad meeting. But that all comes. You've got to keep strengthening the squad and things like that. And then I think they did. I think they brought Dennis in, and they brought Andy Townsend in as well. And so
yeah,
I think that was the so. Latterly, they started to strengthen the squad, because a lot of the players for 89, 91 was near enough. A lot of the players that got relegated brought them back up and then played in the full members final as well. So I think a bit of freshness, and if I'm right, Bobby Campbell. I think Bobby Campbell left in 91, and Ian Porterfield got the job, didn't he?
That's right. Yes. Yeah.
And then had a with Ian Porterfield, who I got on really well with, and when he was assistant to Bobby, we got really well. And then he basically says that because he'd been made manager, he was looking to freshen things up, and if I could get myself a move, he wouldn't stand in my way. Just as that, my old club folk come back in for me, and then I ended up leaving to go back home. So, but to be fair, Ian told me. I mean, he never threw me out the door. He just said, "Try to freshen things up. If you get a chance to go, go." But I think by that time, basically, I thought it was time to move on anyway. So I enjoyed my time, but I probably could have left. I probably should have left before the 88-89 season. But in a way, I'm glad I didn't move then, because they managed to win the league and then get to Wembley again. So, probably ended Chelsea on a high rather than if it would have been on a low.
And you mentioned the move to Falkirk. That was in the summer of '91. Was there any other clubs potentially linked with you? Because as you've mentioned that you was perhaps looking to move on. You felt at that time it was probably best for your career that you felt that you needed to move, and you put it right that Ian Porterfield said that he was having plans for other players. Did you have perhaps any doubts in your mind about, well, maybe I'd rather stay, or was it just a case of, no, I've made my decision, I think it's best to leave Chelsea?
Yeah, I think it was the best time to leave. I think the new manager comes in who I'd worked with as an assistant, so he knew what I could do, and as I say, I got on really well with him. And I mean, if I'd stayed, he would have. If I was going to get picked on merit, he would have picked me. It wasn't that. He wasn't. He was just. He maybe felt that I needed a wee bit. He maybe felt I needed a wee change as well. So it can work both ways. If another couple of English clubs had come in, I don't know, I might have stayed in England. But when Falkirk come for me, they'd just been promoted, and I just felt it was a good move for me at the time. And I went back up, and then 2 years later I got a move to Hibernian. So it worked out well. I mean, it was a good move for me, and I ended up doing really well up there again. So I never had any regrets really.
How you played and with you creating and scoring goals, did you have a good connection with the Chelsea fans? You know, do you have any sort of particular stories of Chelsea fans sort of either coming up to you, sort of outside the ground, for example? What were they like when you was on the pitch?
No, I thought they were fine. I mean, obviously, if you don't play well, you get the groans and all. That's the same for every player. But I think when I played to my ability, I think they appreciated it, and I mean, I had a decent relationship with them, and used to running out the far side of the benches and giving them a clap before games or coming out at half time, and they would respond. So no, they knew. Even if I was playing bad, I would give 100%. I would never give up. I was always fighting my corner. So I think supporters appreciate that, and I think that maybe helped me as well. But no, I think over the piece, I think especially the 89-90, the 88-89 promotion year in the full members cup, I think they've seen a decent side of me in my performances.
Well, Kevin would like to talk about now, sort of about more of the current events, and one in particular I would like to ask your opinion on is VAR. Now, I've mentioned this to other players on the show as well, and they've given us their frank assessment of VAR. So, Kevin, just want to sort of get your thoughts on VAR. Are you a proponent for it, or are you one that would rather it not be part of football in today's game?
If I was to have, like, I would probably say that I wouldn't want VAR. I think if fair enough if they want to bring it in, but only for offsides or something. No silly wee handballs or things that happened 2 minutes down the other side of the pitch or things like that. That's pointless. That happens in the game. It's always happened in the game. Clear offsides may be different if because they've got the goal line technology without VAR, so that you could have something. Somebody could look at a monitor and say offside, right? That's it. But I'm not sure about it because I think it takes a bit of the emotion away for the supporters on the terracing. Because if your team's scoring, you're celebrating. At the back of your mind, you're going, because VAR look at every goal, don't they? So you're wondering whether you're going to get the goal or not. And then every week there's VAR, and I'm not. If I was to give my honest opinion, I wouldn't want VAR in the game. I would rather just leave it as it is. Because it's probably swinging around the bush. You get some, you won't get some. I would leave it, but that's just my opinion.
No, that's fair enough. Your opinion is valid. I think that there are some people that are still partly against VAR, but the fact that it's again somebody else's opinion while watching the game, and it should really be down to the ref. And certain players can see it from both sides. But just a couple of more questions, Kevin, before we do let you go. I want to sort of talk about today's Chelsea. Current European champions were doing quite well in the league. Have you seen much of them this season? Have you sort of followed their progress, and what have you made of certain players' performances this season?
I think they've done. I mean, last season when you got the new manager in, and then they went and won the Champions League. That was an amazing achievement because you couldn't really see them doing that. But the new manager came in and he got a bounce effect off them right away and managed to win that. This season, between them, Liverpool and Manchester City, they're the three clear best teams in the league. All different styles as well, so that makes it more interesting. I mean, Liverpool with the way they play, and Manchester City with their keep ball, and Chelsea have just got a bit of basically everything. I think the Lukaku signing is going to be good for them. So, and they've got a very efficient manager. So I think they're strong in a few areas. The boy broke through. The boy Reece James looks a right good player. And I think they'll not be far away for all the honours this year. They'll go far in probably them all. I think so. I think it should be a good season. And in the big games, it could be a VAR decision that gets you a result or doesn't get you a result. So, but I think they're looking really strong, and I think they've got a real chance.
And finally, Kevin, for this interview, and again, thank you very much for your time. How do you look back on your time at Chelsea?
Enjoyable, great experience. When I was part-time playing with Falkirk, didn't think for a minute that I would turn full-time at 22. That's what I did when I went to Chelsea. The first time I was full-time. The minute I walked through at the club, it was just, when I got that phone call from my manager to tell me I was going down to sign for Chelsea, it was just like an unbelievable feeling. I went down and spent six years there. Met a lot of great people, a lot of good friends. Magnificent support, home and away. Away support used to be absolutely amazing. You knew they were turning up their numbers and they would get behind the team. And all right, a couple of dodgy seasons where injuries and not getting picked. But if you're there 6 years, that can happen. So I accept that. That's part of the game. But as a whole, I'm actually pleased with my time at Chelsea. And, I really enjoyed it, and I still like to see them doing well. Although since I've been away, I've not been back at any games yet, so I'll maybe have to come down and pay the lads a visit.
Well, it'll be great to see you back at the Bridge one day supporting the mighty Chelsea. I've absolutely enjoyed having you on the show today, Kevin, and again, thank you very much for being on the show, and hopefully we'll see you down at the Bridge sooner rather than later. Yeah,
thanks for asking me. As I said, this first one I've done, so and if I manage to come down and down to a game, I'll give you a buzz and you can maybe buy me a pint or something.
Oh, I will definitely do that, that's for sure. Thanks very much.
Thanks, mate. Cheers.